Lance,
we'll get it
what's
right
going
one
on?
of these days. Dude, how are you? I am tired. I
I'm
stayed
tired.
up way too late.
Oh, yeah. You were watching the baseball game, probably.
Yep.
Well, luckily, our guest is going to energize us, and he's returning from episode 2, which is now episode 40. What's up, Michael Cox?
What's happening, fellas?
How are you doing?
I'm good. I think there's a lot of pressure if I've got to energize you, but we'll do our best.
Well, I know we're all tired, too. Before we got on, you said you're like focusing on sleep these days.
Yeah. Yep. I got some good sleep last night, so maybe I can bring the energy.
Well, you've
That's
had quite
good.
the schedule, I'll say. You've been writing, you've been teaching, you've been doing intensives,
Yeah.
marriage workshops, therapy practice. You've been all over the place.
Yes, it is.
What does
that
Michael
is
Cox
the-
not do? That's what I want to figure out.
I was going to say sleep, but I got some great sleep last night. So, we're doing good. Yeah, doing good. Yep. Excited to be here.
Michael Cox doesn't do nothing. That's what we know.
I have some good moments. I have some good nothing moments.
Okay.
And it's usually watching like the Great British Baking Show or something like that, or the Amazing Race. Yeah.
Well, I have a lot of things we want to talk to you about. Episode 2, we talked a lot about adolescence and working with kids and families using RT.
Yeah.
Intensives.
I want to bounce around a little bit this morning, if that's cool with you. But I kind of, if you're open to it, I want to just hear a little bit about the project you've been working on. And as you've been working on it, any new insight, things you've been learning about, I don't know, RT, about yourself, about working with adolescents, families?
Yeah. So project, just a quick update, is in the hands of publishers, and we are literally praying and waiting for someone to say this is the project they want. And so we are waiting, which is not the fun part, on for somebody to pick it up. But also my prayer stepping into it was like, you know what? The group that needs this is going to see it and be like, hey, this is the book that we've been waiting for. And everybody else will be jealous. I don't know. We'll see what happens. So that's exciting to be there. After just going back and forth with the agent, we were able to kind of whale it down. What was good, maybe since we talked, got really good feedback from the agent on some content. And as much as I think I told you this before, as much as I didn't want to write a clinical book, a lot of it felt clinical. I think when I got it to their hands, and the feedback was, hey, let's make it a few more stories, a little bit more intimate, practical. So really got to go back, at least the first 3 chapters. That's what was submitted to the agent and going on the publishers. The first 3 chapters have been almost just chapter 1's pretty much the same. Chapter 2 and 3 were pretty overhauled, pretty good. And just a lot of it is just diving into stuff, experiencing with my own family, families I've worked with. When you start thinking about your own stuff, I don't know about you guys, when you think about RT, I have learned, and I don't know if I said this on the last podcast, but in the process, what I've learned is I think I see my pain cycle emerge a lot faster and often with my kids than with my wife. Maybe because my wife and I've been doing the work for a while, and so it doesn't seem the same, but it's a whole nother thing. And I started thinking about, why do I have so many stories of dysregulation with my children?
That makes for good material, though, right?
It does. I don't need clients. I don't need stories from clients. I got plenty of my own with 3 boys.
Oh man,
and they're teenagers now. Oh man, it's the book's based on adolescence, and I've got 3 of them to experiment on.
The big question is, how much of the royalty do they get?
The kids.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah, I remember at some point my brother and I, because we're pastors' kids and we're getting older, and we realized, man, we are the center of all my dad's illustrations. And so we went up and said, I think it's time when you cut us in on a deal for every time you talk about us, we should get some kind of cutback here.
They haven't quite gone there yet, and I'm not giving them the prompt to ask. So we'll see.
Hopefully they don't listen to this.
Yeah, they don't see the last. I don't know even how much they will read it till they become parents. Who knows? But so far, there's no deal.
what's been the because a lot of people listening, I think, I think a lot of people would like to write a book at some point in their life, or are like to write, and there's some really famous quotes by like writers, how much they hate writing, but to have written is awesome, the whole process. So, you being a therapist all day in and out of practice and intensives and stuff, has that been hard to carve out time to write, or has that been like a good break for you, or both?
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. I mean, I think now that I've done it, and now that I'm having to kind of stay on it regularly, more ideas come to mind, more thoughts about like, oh, okay, this might be an extra interesting topic, or maybe an add-on, or so I think that kind of stays consistent. The one thing I think I've adjusted to, I like journaling. Like I'm one of those guys that kind of seasonally journal. Like I don't do it every day. Probably don't do it even every week, but kind of a seasonal journaler. And it's kind of felt that way to me, of like, there's times where I sit down and it's like, hey, I'm getting after it and I've got a lot of stuff to put out there. Now that I feel like I've got a little bit of more leeway to make some adjustments to even what I've currently written, it's been really good. I think the harder part becomes just this sense of trying to collaborate with people and figure out like, how do I, you mentioned, earlier, I think we were talking about being the adolescent guy or family guy for RT.
Yeah.
There's this sense of, hey, where do I get the banter, dialogue back and forth on that topic? And so my journal, and sometimes even ChatGPT, becomes my conversationalist to try to figure out and flesh out my ideas. So I don't know. I think it goes back and forth.
Yeah, and I think out of this too, what's emerged is I don't know if it. It seems like it's emerged from this too. Is you've dived into got a great podcast called the HEARTWORK Podcast.
Look it up, guys.
Yeah,
it makes us look like chumps.
Yeah, it's nice and slick, man. I like it. It's good stuff, and you've had
Michael Cox is a really good looking guy too. Let's be honest.
Well, thank you very much.
And you got the art, the Instagram up and going. Tell us a little bit about just that podcast and that experience, and the name of the podcast.
Yeah. So the name of the podcast is the HEARTWORK, and you have to put with Michael Cox. We didn't do our best research before because there's a couple of other out there called the HEARTWORK. And so you've got to actually search by my name and the HEARTWORK to find it. Like total transparency, it came from the need to be out there. I don't know if I said that before, but when it came to developing and trying to get this book, one of the things that came back from the agent was that I didn't have a following, like to go to a publisher and be like, hey, who's going to buy this book? I'm like, I don't know, people. And
Lance and I are for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm in. I'm probably get a bunch. I'm at least buying 12.
Was that at least 12? All right.
Yeah.
Take it. So she said, hey, you've got to do something. And so that was it. And the lady that helped me with my branding, who's been amazing, we were just kind of go back and forth. I actually had put back out on social media, like, hey, here's some ideas of what I'm thinking. And here's some thoughts that I have with people that I know. And all of that kind of kept coming back and nothing was landing. And Giselle is her name. Giselle sends me a message. She's like, hey, how come you didn't tell me you were looking for a name? She helped me with all the background and like writing of who I am for a brand, all that kind of stuff. And she was like, I think it's pretty clear. You need to name it the HEARTWORK. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's it. It's like the lights went off and all that stuff, right? It was a lot of fun. But it was, I think from the basis of really doing, like just getting deeper and talking about what's going on with individuals' lives and how to look at the individual. How do we address family in particular? And then what does that look like in the context of maybe church and community? And so it's just having conversations with folks around those topics and just getting a little deeper around who they are, what they're about. So when I have professionals on, I try to do my best to get them to get beyond their professional hats and just talk about life and what's going on with their life and how they're dealing with life and all that fun stuff. So it's been fun. It's another thing to do. But, we're doing it.
Yeah, you're doing a great job of it, and also, we don't have any Olympians on our podcast. So Michael did have Olympic gold medalist Marion Jones on the podcast. So
I did.
Love it.
I did. It's so funny about that is she's great. She's like, use my name. She's like, leverage whatever you need to get it out there. I was like, sweet. How about you endorse me and we'll be good to go. So it was good. Great friend.
That's pretty cool, bro.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, and I think one of the hard things, just to kind of go there with being a therapist, we're all in our own practices. I mean, there is a huge aspect, which they don't train you in grad school and talk about it. But, we have to somehow get our name out there to the public, whether we are hanging up a shingle and having a private practice or a group practice, or we want to sell a book. And that's just kind of the side that we just don't talk about in therapy. I think as therapists, we just picture ourselves in a room doing the deep work with clients and not realizing, there's another component as well that we got to get good at also.
You got to get them in the room. You got to get them to you.
The if you build it, they will come thing is kind of, it was a good movie.
Yeah, that's about it. Well, and this, Lance is having a group practice, but I've got interns and associates, and they kind of come out with that perspective of like, hey, I've got the degree now. Why aren't the people flooding and knocking on the doors to come see me? Like, hey, this isn't how it's supposed to happen. I just get a degree and suddenly we are flooded with clients. That didn't work that way.
Oh man, dude, that was going back to those days, that was a workout trying to like create a name for yourself.
Yeah.
I remember like just going around to all the pastors. I would go to every single convention I could go to, talking to people, getting to know people, and then working the craft of like being a really good therapist. But then when you're a good this is a tough about restoration therapy. I tell my guys this, that when you become a really good restoration therapist, your people get better quicker. Like a psychoanalytic therapist, like they could see the same client. Their full client load would be under 100, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I've had hundreds of clients already.
Yeah.
So because we do good work, we get them out, we get the practice, and they're out of here. So
yeah,
it's tough being an RT therapist because all the healing work that transpires in our therapy work.
Yeah, when people when they start doing it, I think that's a little bit what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, man.
It's when you do it, we know it works. I think we all three could say we know it works because of our own lives, our marriages and relationships. We've seen it happen. And I think we champion that when my wife and I get to work together with couples in the individual stuff that I do. There's this sense of I am confident that if you utilize the tools that are being given, you're going to see a change. And so it is, as we were talking earlier, sometimes, at least right now, it seems to be on the forefront for me. I don't know if it's just people feeling very justified to stay in their pain and wanting to stay in their pain. Even like literally just talking with a couple yesterday, just having this sense of like, they literally came and were like, hey, we think we're ready to kind of progress and move on. That's as far as I can tell you on that. But just walking through and just going back. And so I think there's two ends of it. One is grace, because we know that, hey, life is going to happen. And it's the beauty of having this tool. All the 4 steps is that when life happens, we have something to help us through the process. But it's also this sense of feeling very justified in our pain. Like I can stay here just because, and I guess technically people can, but it's going to get them towards healing. And so I think it's just getting to that place of helping people know that, hey, there is better on the other side, but you got to do the work to get there.
Dude, I feel you. I'm in the middle of reading Brene Brown's new book, Strong Ground. Okay. And she's got this chapter on transformation. And she talks about in transformation, you have to break things. And she talks about in there, like one of the hardest things is like, you have to change your mindset. Like that is like one of the hardest things to change. And like literally as RT therapists, that is what we're doing. Yeah. We are working to change mindsets. And it's such a workout.
Yeah.
Because our brains want to do everything opposite. I have no interest in what you're talking about right now.
No, I just want to stay here. Well, it's interesting though, yesterday, and this has come up more times than not, and I find myself here more, is helping people just make the correlation between what we do in RT to what happens in our own spiritual walk. Like there's this sense that like when we go to the Lord, if something's happening, particularly with sin, I think, is we have this expectation that it's supposed to be poofed away. right? In that, all right, hey, God, I don't want this anymore. So just take it and it's going to be gone. And as opposed to, no, there's some work to be done on our end, especially when we've developed habits or sin in our lives, that there's a process for healing. There's a process for us getting and living in redemption. And yet we have this mentality. And to be honest with you, I was having this conversation again yesterday. I had a lot of conversations yesterday, by the way. But this conversation about how what we highlight in the church sometimes is the people who were radically changed, right? There's like this hyper focused on the people who were drug dealers or users one day and tomorrow they're not, and they never went to drugs again, which is a great thing. Like, I don't want to minimize that, but that is not the norm. But yet that's how we live out our life. And I think sometimes that happens in our offices, is that people show up of like, well, I came to you and I've been with you for 3 weeks, 3 months, whatever it is. Why haven't I changed? Or why aren't things different? And why am I paying you all this money? Well, what are you doing when you leave my office? And there's just this expectation that it's supposed to just happen without any work.
Poof.
Yeah. I've been just reading a lot more of some stuff around Paul, and I was looking about the timeline, I mean, dates are a little off depending on who you read, but probably around like 36 AD, he has that radical conversion, right? With the light in Damascus. But then he disappears for a few years to Galatia, and we think he's probably growing and learning and being transformed himself, probably breaking things. And then he spends another 27, 28 years in those churches. But when you read it on a Sunday morning, it almost, without the context, it feels like it just happens quickly, no, people are transformed by the renewing of your mind. Cool. Take off the old, put on the new, done. But I'm like, this is written over the course of years with communities he's been with for 20, 30 years that he's like, he's frustrated with, and he's trying to get them to change. And I don't know. I agree with you. We read it and think, oh, this should happen quicker. Mm-hmm. Or my partner should be the one to change. I don't want to change.
Yeah. Did they change? I'm going to change. Yeah. Yep.
Do you think go ahead.
No, I just think you also have like, why do we have this conversation of what we use in RT? Like, the whole purpose of the 4 steps and the peace cycle is, building new pathways. Right. And so there's this sense of like painting this picture that building pathways takes work. Mm-hmm. Like, you said Lance Brené talked about breaking things. I'm like, you got to go dig away brush and weeds and all this stuff to create a pathway that's a new pathway, and it doesn't just happen. And I think that's where it sticks, is that, and it's easy to say, what I think is still true. We do live in a society where everything is immediate. Like literally everything that we want is pretty much at our fingertips. And so to have to truly do the work towards change, it's amazing that folks aren't willing to do that. However, to your point a while ago, Lance, right? In your typical psychodynamic theory approach, people will sit in a counselor's office for 3, 4, 5 years doing the same thing over and over and thinking, okay, I'm in counseling, so maybe my life's going to be better at some point. But they also get stuck in that rut, but at the same time, not pursuing change and wanting to do the work to pursue it. So, yeah.
This idea around like helping people to change, I think it really, we're asking a lot. And I don't think we realize that sometimes, that there is a huge creature comfort about doing, even if it's like, even if it's horrible for you, it's so comfortable to do that, which is like what you do, because you know what you do.
You mastered it.
Yeah. So to shift someone to this new place, I think it is a, I feel like sometimes I'm part motivational speaker, like at the stage of the game. I always quote the statistic. They're like, hey, this is what we know. You can talk about your pain, you can talk about this, but the one thing that makes the biggest difference is if you use your 4 steps. The people that are using that 2 years later, they just from an intensive, they say that they're not only better, these are like people that were like ready to end the marriage and everything. Yeah. They're not only better, but they're thriving. Like, and I think it's so hard to practice though.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned, this is kind of jumping topics, but you mentioned and asked earlier about kind of what I'm passionate about right now. Something that's been revealed recently, not revealed, but it's just more the forefront. I've known this for a while, is I'm really fighting this battle with doing therapy with folks, because maybe the pendulum is really swung, and this is going to not sound fun for our profession, but that, sometimes I think people feel like therapy is the answer to everything, and particularly parenting. So just because I think right now I'm more hyper-focused on what I'm doing and reading and looking at things, this challenge of challenging parents to have to tell a parent, your child doesn't need therapy, your child needs parenting. And more where there's just this sense of folks, when we start thinking about doing the work, I've had people stop coming to see me because they say we're not a good fit. And we're not a good fit because I will not just sit in the office and look at their child. They want their child to be in therapy, their adolescent to be in therapy. And you start talking about the issues that are going on, and they're parenting issues. Mm-hmm. But yet there's a therapist that's supposed to come in and fix their child or fix what's going on. And so there's this sense of where I find this movement towards trying to do more family therapy, the resistance in that, because there's an abdication of responsibility that's being kind of put on us as the therapist, and say, hey, here's my child and what's going on. And you listen to the parents, literally what they bring the parent in with, and you listen to what the child is dealing with. And it's at least blaringly obvious to me that it's a parenting issue, and that they've got to just learn how to parent differently. Not saying they're bad parents, but just how to differently parent. They don't want to do the work. They want their child to come in the office and to be fixed. And to the degree that there are folks that I'm having to really challenge parents and say, I'm not really sure that I'm a good fit, because I can't just sit in the office another day and play Uno or go to the basketball court with your child, because there's nothing psychologically wrong. But you don't want to sit in the office and do the work because you feel like I'm calling you a bad parent, and now I'm a bad therapist because I am telling you your child doesn't need therapy. I don't know if it's, again, I know it's an area of passion, but it's definitely an area of frustration right now, where it's a place, I think, because of the hyper focus, is that it just seems that to folks that's the answer. The answer is, let me just drop you off the therapist, and that's going to fix the problem.
So let's go down this line a lot, because this is very common, especially where we live in California, where there's this abdication of parenting in multiple ways. Tell me, where have you found, outside of kicking them out, which was just kicking them down the road, what are we supposed to do as therapists about these types of cases? This is something that's very I think it goes back to when I was first starting. People would be like, hey, can you fix my kid? Hey, can you fix my kid? Mm-hmm. And how can we help parents be better?
So I can tell you what I'm doing. Whether or not it's helping parents get better, well, maybe time will tell what it's doing for folks. But I can tell you where I sit. So some of this becomes, I've been talking with my interns about this, and we actually are spending some time Friday to be a little bit more intentional, even in our intake process. When a adolescent comes, is to be able to ask a parent, what is the parent and the student, young person, what's your goal? Why are you coming to therapy? And what my ear has become attuned to is that when you start hearing things like, well, they're just being kind of belligerent, they are being disrespectful, they are not engaging with us anymore, they don't really want to be around us. Some of the stuff that my teenagers do, right? Maybe my kids need therapy, who knows? But it is part of the process. There's a whole bank account for that for later. But it's being able to determine what's happening. What are the things that are going on? There's some very telltale signs that we know as therapists. If a child is dealing with depression, they're dealing with anxiety, they're dealing with some of the typical things, maybe some of their identity stuff. We can see that and see how it's impacting multiple areas of their life. But when I start hearing things like, they just aren't engaging with us. They aren't nice anymore. They're not, all these different things. It's kind of this sense of like, again, outside of a conversation with them, is it that you don't feel like you can connect with them as a parent? And to be able to figure out what is that? Is that what's missing? Then yeah, I would love to help y'all know how to do that. If it is something's wrong with them, literally, and we've got some assessment to do to figure out what that is, yeah, we can do that. But when it comes to being able to have a conversation about, so I think I've told you guys this numerous times and I haven't changed this, is when I'm talking with a family to say, I can help your teenager with said issue, but you've got to be equipped to help them when they leave. And when I get a resistance on that is when I start to be concerned about this isn't a teen issue. When there's resistance from a parent to say, well, I don't think it's that. I don't think I need to be in it. Or I can literally tell you multiple sessions where I'm sitting in a family session and you've got parents arguing with each other about something happening with the teen. Teen's kind of sitting back and just kind of sitting there watching the things happening. And then they turn to the teen and say, well, you just need to do X, Y, Z, and you need to da. And Michael, we'll have them see you individually next week so that we can work on this. And I give pushback and I'm like, why aren't we working it right now? Like, look at the dynamics of what you're experiencing. This is something happening between all of you. So to directly answer your question, like, what does that mean? I don't know that I have the answer yet in that, what do we do other than better assess why someone's coming into the office? Why are they coming? Is it just because I don't know what to do? Okay, then that's part of the exploration. Yeah. But this constant, and I've told you guys this before, and I still stand behind it. This constant, let me just drop my teen off. They'll see you for 50 minutes. We'll see you again next week. I think gone are those days. Like what to what end are we doing that specifically without putting anybody's business out there and obviously without breaking confidentiality? I've got multiple young people that I work with that, I've told you guys that I require 50% of the time is with parents in their sessions. And it's interesting how in the very beginning, parents are very open to that and ready to do it. But then suddenly I find that we're having more individual sessions because suddenly family sessions aren't happening. And I'm having to call parents and be like, hey, why are we missing? Well, my husband had to work or this is happening. And it's like, well, suddenly these are becoming individual sessions as opposed to family sessions. And having to tell parents, look, hey, either we're going to stop treatment or we've got to revisit what's going on. I honestly think some of it comes back to being willing to do the work and abdicating the role of parenting, even to the degree of being able to say, I don't know. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I will take that any day from someone as opposed to just, hey, you take care of the business and fix my kid. I don't know if I answered your question, but I feel like I just ranted for about 5 minutes.
It's good stuff, man.
Well, what I'm hearing a few things, and maybe you can kind of, one is I want you in the room with me and I want you to practice with me. I think this is even going back to our earlier conversation is like until we actually practice together, we talk about practice, like until we're actually practicing together, like we're not going to get better.
Yeah.
Like, so that's one thing I'm hearing from you. Healthy assessment that we have to pay it. Like we have to do a full assessment when we're working together. That's really important as well. And, are our goals mutual? I find this is such a huge thing with, I wouldn't call myself like a big teenage therapist, but I've certainly had my fair share. And I feel like, when goals are not mutual, it does bring up a big problem. Like, the parents, like, I want my kid, off drugs. I want my kid's autistic. I don't want them to be autistic anymore. My kid's ADD. I don't want them to be ADD anymore. Whatever it is, like, and the kid's like, I'm fine. I don't want to be here. I hate you. Why am I here? I don't know. And you get the I don't knows forever. You're like, wow, you found another way to say I don't know. That's really impressive.
I count them in session. I limit, you get 3 per session. I don't know. And once you finish, you leave it up. So you hit on something I think is big. There is sometimes it's tough when I have a parent call in. I will ask the parent, one, does your teenager know we're having this conversation? Two, our very first intake session is everybody. And as a part of that, I tell the parents, I'm going to ask your teenager if they are bought in. Like I'm going to literally ask them, do they know why they're here? Then two, like, do you have outside of like a small child, which I don't see, but a teenager, to be able to say, like, is this something you want to move forward in? And I'll get pushback sometimes from parents because they're like, well, why are they having to make a choice? And I said, so you wanted your teenager to come sit and talk to a strange bald-headed black guy they didn't know nothing about, and just sit and look at me for each session, and you want to pay for that? Well, we think we can figure out how to make it work. No, we want them to have buy-in. So when they come back, they know where they're coming, because, man, you want to get me upset is when a teenager sips in and like, oh, no, I didn't even know I had this today.
Yeah. I found out on the car ride over here.
Yes. And that's where we like, the beauty of that is that's some fuel for the session, because it's like, all right, parents, can you help me understand why your teen is here and they didn't know about it? I didn't think they would come. Why did you think they would come? And I'm asking you these questions right in front of your teenager all right, so if that's the case, like, we've got some work to do because it shows that y'all can't communicate. Let's figure out what that is. What's happening that y'all can't have a conversation about someone going to have help to a professional.
Would you, let's say you have a 16 or 17-year-old who can drive, and they're the ones who are actually like, I want to go talk to a counselor. And it's not the parents, it's not and the parents are calling you. They're not even complaining about the kid or anything. They're just like, my kids express interest in talking to someone. Would you change your philosophy in terms of that first session, having a full family, or allowing that kid on his own just to kind of drive there and see you because he's the one or she's the one who's inquired about talking? You know what I'm saying? Like, will that vary?
All day. I only require the 50% family if you're 15 or younger.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that's helpful, because I'm just thinking about my own practice, and I spend less time with younger kids these days, like under 15 typically. It's happened naturally, and maybe it's happened by my own unconscious choosing. The older my kids got, the less young my clientele seemed to get sometimes. And I have a lot of kids, 17, 18, 19, who, some are legally adults, but living with parents, things like that, parents paying. And I find a real trying to promote a sense of agency in them when they're willing to come on their own and drive themselves and not have their parents in the room, like it's been really interesting. And this may take us off track too, Michael, I don't call you Mike. I was thinking about our culture that's maybe overly therapeutic, that almost everything is an issue now. And so we almost think like normal teenage behavior, resistance, stubbornness, pushing up boundaries is like something's wrong. It's not normal, or we turn it into something that we must diagnose. And I find a lot of times just talking to parents about this is just normal behavior, and we're almost not used to that. I think in our culture that looks for answers in all the books and Instagram posts and everything. I don't know. I don't have a question really there. That's what I've been thinking about a lot recently too.
Yeah. There's a guy that spoke at our church Sunday. It'll come to me in just a second what his name is. But spoke at our church, and he does a lot of ministry with churches and talks about his own story with chronic depression and anxiety, and helps people in that area. And he does a lot of work, he says, with his generation. He's in his 60s, and he does a lot in that generation because he says what he finds on a regular basis are those parents coming in and saying their kids have just canceled them because all of what's going on in their life that's not good is their parents' fault. And their parents are the one that messed them up. And so if they disconnect with their parents, then their life is going to be better. And so it's this weird juggle, because that almost sounds like counter to what I was saying, right? When it comes to parents and the issue. And I think it's twofold. I think there's two things I think that are going on. One is literally this concept of mentorship, olders passing it on to youngers, understanding what it's like to be a parent and what all the details about that are. People aren't around people doing it. And so to be able to understand there's difficulties, there's contrast, there's all these things that happen in parenting. We're going to make mistakes on a regular basis. We're going to have some great times. So being in community where you actually begin to see that, we talk about community a lot, but we're not having that. And so we're feeling very justified because, well, I'm not getting my needs met, or I'm a victim because my parents spanked me at 2. I don't know, whatever it might be. And I have trauma because I got a spanking at 2 years old. That's a whole nother conversation. But all of these things that are coming up, right, that are happening. And so I'm feeling justified in that, but I'm not pursuing it. But then I think what happens in our profession is they go and they sit down with a therapist, and that therapist says, you're right, you were traumatized, or your parents were at fault, and so on and so forth. And so therefore you're okay with and justified to cancel them and to go on and find family somewhere else. So I think you have that. At the same time, I think you also have parents not knowing how to parent, literally not knowing what to do. And so, yeah, maybe there's some harm happening, but at the same time, it's just a sense of I'm abdicating that to a therapist. I'm abdicating it to an educator. I'm abdicating it to someone else to do that parenting and not take it on. So you've almost got these colliding generations where you did have parents that probably didn't do a great job, but welcome to the club. But they also aren't finding the tools to be able to go ahead and learn to do it differently.
Bro, man, I got to set boundaries with my parents, man. Come on. If Sharon Hargrave's listening to this, she wants to come through the screen and talk about this.
Did y'all see in Psychology Today, they had on estranged family, there's like a whole article on estranged families, like mending estranged families. So I'm glad this topic is being talked about. I think it's really important.
Yeah. You know what's interesting too? I'll have people resist. We're putting the pain cycle up. There's a resistance to it sometimes because they, I think, assume as a therapist, I'm going to blame their parents. And I say it almost every week. I say, like, whereas we're looking at their pain cycle, this is not about placing blame in areas or camps. This is about understanding yourself and your own experiences. And at least for most families, there's some really beautiful things they did that we want to highlight and continue to do. And then there are some things they didn't do as well, and we want to learn from those and do those things differently, and but even that, like, there's resistance. Like, I don't even want to talk about this stuff because you're going to tell me to do this. So it's what I'm hearing is it gets pretty messy, and people's assumptions about like maybe therapeutic work when they come in can be biased in certain directions.
Yeah. Yeah. It's honestly why I have started leaning so strongly towards family work, because the reality is, our families, the core of a family is just being ripped apart in whatever direction, and whoever fault is doing. I think we're all doing to whatever degree, but it's being ripped apart, and folks don't know how, nor do they want to your point, Rhett, is that folks aren't really pursuing that healing within their families. That doesn't make one person right or wrong. It's just being able to say that, hey, there's some healing that's needed in the family, which I think is going to be a ripple effect into what has happened in our society. So it's that weird, again, back to that weird contrast. There are some things that our parents didn't do that probably could have done better, or that they could learn something different. I think, I don't know if I said this last time, but I'm going to say it again. It's worth repeating. Do y'all know Heather Cawthon? I said her last name.
Cawthon. I've never said her name right. Yes.
So we get to do intensives together. Such an amazing person.
Dude, Heather's great.
I quote her all the time. I told her I'm going to stop quoting her because I've said it more than 3 times, so it should be mine. But, we were doing intensive together one time, and we were talking about how I had made this statement, right? Our parents did the best they could with what they had. Like, we all say that, right? In many different factors. And we're talking literally in the middle of an intensive, and she looked up, she goes, wait, I kind of have a problem with that. And she was like, yes, I think our parents did the best they could with what they had. She goes, however, they were also adults that could have learned something different, that could have made the choice to acknowledge that there's something not going well and to choose to do something differently, which we all get the opportunity as adults to see. Now, that doesn't mean that our eyes are open to it. Maybe we don't see like all of those things. But I think that there's a place where we have to call people to a higher standard sometimes of like, it's why, again, for myself of like, okay, so as I said a while ago, Lance, you were shaking or nodding your head to it, of like, if somebody comes in and just says, I don't know what I'm doing as a parent, I will take that all day long. Like I'm happily do that. But unfortunately, that's not what happens. Unfortunately, it is this sudden that it's either the child's fault. Yeah. Right. Which is hence probably why we've got this older generation feeling like they're being abandoned, is because they've been abdicated their role as a parent to the kids. So it's either the child's fault or parents are releasing the responsibility to someone else, right? So those things are happening right now. But it's the willingness to learn something new and the willingness to realize we all jumped into this thing as parents really not knowing what to do. And all we had to go off of is what we learned in our own adolescence and our own childhood. And that could be good and that could be bad. But unfortunately, then we marry somebody else who had a different adolescence and childhood. And we now got to figure out, what does this mean as parents ourselves? And that key of learning something different, therefore doing something different, kind of comes back full circle. Is sometimes folks just aren't willing to do that.
Yeah. It's that first step in the 12-step process.
Admitting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
Maybe this is why, I don't know, I'm just thinking here at a gut level, like instinctual level, I was really drawn to RT because, and it's, Terry's work and his work in contextual family therapy and intergenerational family therapy and work around attachment, that we have a model in RT to get to some deep stuff as it relates to families and family systems. And if you don't have that, you don't have that training, you can get really lost real quickly in a session with the client. To not see that intergenerational work and to understand maybe how to make sense of that and to begin to change that.
Yeah.
So just shout out to RT. I'm thankful to be a part of this model.
Thanks, Terry.
Thanks, Terry, Sharon.
Sharon, thank you.
Yep.
Founders, thank you.
Mike, Michael, I don't know why I call you Mike on the podcast, because I don't call you that in person. I just love that you're passionate about this, because I think working with couples, I think anecdotally what I hear is that it's harder and harder to find therapists who work with couples. And there's not a lot of people, it seems like, who want to work with families sometimes. And it's messy and complicated. And so it's really like, I feel like talking to you on this, it's awesome that you seem pretty fired up about that. Cause I think we're lacking in our culture today, people who are willing to step into that place and work with an entire family system, because it is, man, it's complicated, it's messy, and it is not easy.
What's difficult, right? And you and I were, I think, even texting about this a little bit, is it's messy, it's hard. People don't want to pay for it. First of all, don't see the value in family therapy. But at the same time, it does take work. Like, I cannot just I can't just come in a family therapy, like sometimes maybe an individual and sometimes in couples, because of the beauty of RT. We're always doing a process, right? I've got to prepare for a family session. And depending on the age of the kids, and if it's adult kids, like, there's just a lot of things that go into that. And so I think sometimes to be able to want to put the work in, it's not wanting, but it's also like to see that as a value. Like, I think that's probably the one thing that I'm running into is to see the value of doing a work as a unit, not just an individual. But because I think people begin to get a little offended, right? Of, you're telling me our family's bad, and it's like, no, maybe, but no. That's not what we're saying. It's just a fact that maybe there's something that needs to happen within the unit for support. But to get people on that train is really difficult, because to see the need, like another conversation I recently had was that, there were therapists that will say their practice, they feel like it's unethical if, like, I'm working with a couple and then to see the family and work with a family. And it's just like, I get your practice maybe is not there, but how's it unethical to use help a family unit to get healthy, to get better, and to work on those things? And the foundation of that home is a marriage, not And literally had a couple tell me that they couldn't work with someone else because they felt it was unethical to be seen as a couple than to do family work. And, I said, people have their areas of expertise in the way they want to do work, but it's definitely not unethical to work with you and a family.
The definition of ethics is what's in the best interest of your client. I mean, that is the thing. So this is in the best interest of your client.
Yeah.
To open it up more. I mean, this is foundational to all the founders of family therapy, was bringing everybody in the room.
I mean, almost
that's crazy.
It seems like once a week, I'll get the question. A person will come in and it's a first time intake individual, and I find out their spouse has another therapist, and then they want to know if they should find another couples therapist. And next thing you know, we're juggling 3 or 4 therapists. And I say to them, it's up to you all what you want to do, but I do not see it as any violation of ethics that I'm working with you and I work with you and your wife. In fact, I should probably call if your wife will or your husband will sign off, I want to call the other therapist and find out how we can get on the same page too. And I don't know where that comes from, maybe past experience or something they're reading online. But isn't it better for a person to work for the good of the whole system and to see all the pieces? I think so.
Yeah. Terry jams that up a lot. I mean, I've seen him do consultation with people in the past where he's like, you doing individual therapy with this person is making their marriage worse.
Mm-hmm.
Like this couple needs couples therapy. They do not need your individual work of calming this person down and allowing them to rant about how horrible their spouse is actually making making their marriage worse.
Yeah.
They need to learn how to regulate together.
Because outside of RT, right, all they're doing is coming in and sitting and griping about what went wrong. And your 50 minutes is up. We'll come back next week and gripe about what went wrong that week. Sorry, my chair literally just
he just shrunk in stature right before our eyes.
That was hilarious.
That's kind of good timing as you were talking about that.
Let me just kind of come down a little bit.
Something interesting too. I've run into it a couple times in the last couple of weeks. Somebody came to see me again, a new client, and their spouse was fearful of them coming in, that I would encourage them to end the marriage. And, outside of something that is obviously severe, there are things that we might say as therapists, like this is not good for your sense of safety or other things happening.
Yeah.
But man, as an RT therapist, I hope, and I've been trained that I believe in the restoration of relationships and marriages, and I want you to work at it.
Yeah.
Like you come in, I'm not trying to help you end your marriage. I might get down the road and decide like this, you're going to have to make a decision about this relationship because there are some really bad things going on. But I just thought that was sad that their spouse, this person wants to get help, see a therapist, and their spouse is fearful that by going in, they're going to leave the relationship. I don't know if that says something about what's going on, but
I think it does.
What's happening here?
I think like all of you, I'm always interested in like, how do we make this thing better? When you come in the office, how do we work together to restore, to bring restoration, not to cut off and to end?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It's not desolation therapy. It's restoration therapy. We're trying to heal, bro. We want to tell the best story ever. Like I'm always, I'm like at the brink. I want to pull them back and let them experience the freedom that life has for them. Like, I never want to give up on marriage or the work that we do.
Yeah. We gotta maintain that hope. I think we were talking about families earlier, and I started thinking about talking with a couple, and you have done the work. Again, I think I am under the conviction the marriage is the foundation of a home, right? And if you can see where couples are struggling, you can oftentimes, unless they're just really good at hiding, which we know when you start talking to a teenager, they didn't hide very well anyway, is that you actually, to me, I begin to see hope for your family. Because I think if I can help parents know how to regulate, if I can help a couple do that, I think it's easy when it comes to parenting, because it's like this sense of you are now empowered to move forward differently in your relationship with your child. And so the family component becomes very, very easy, but it's similar to like in marriage. If you're only seeing one person, there's maybe a half of the story, a fourth of the story, a third of the story of what's really going on. And so when we're trying to seek towards healing, like, how can I help you heal, but I don't know the full context? And if you feel like, if whoever's in the room feels like they're the problem, and maybe they are, I don't know, but if they feel like they're the problem, how do we ever get towards healing if we don't know how to deal with the total problem, what's happening? And so that's in a marriage, that's in family, it's in a unit of all those things of, hey, let's look at all of what's happening, and help you walk differently to get to that. But that's been my mantra from the beginning. RT is just starting to help me get a little better grasp on it.
Yeah, I don't have to go there, but I was just thinking, this goes back to what we were talking about earlier about, we're therapists, but we also have a practice we're trying to run and everything, and it's challenging. And I think, Michael, I think you bring up some good points, even though you're maybe not saying it exactly, is that, to do good work often requires time and preparation. And if we have to take time and preparation, that means we might have to have a smaller workload. But with a smaller workload means sometimes we see less people, which means sometimes our practice isn't as healthy as we need to be in terms of from a financial perspective. And then you get the resistance of people wanting to pay for therapy or family therapy or see the value in it. It's a really systemic issue, I think from where I sit, if I knew I could go into a family session and that family session would just, or several or more, would bring healing to my family, I think that would be just invaluable when we look at maybe what we spend our money on or our resources on typically, and the ways that we spend money on to numb out from maybe our family issues. So I don't know how we answer that, how we address that, but I just think, man, how powerful that'd be if you could really focus on a few sessions a day that you were really prepped for and do the deep work. That would be life-changing for the people in your community.
It's part of it. I think you both could probably attest to this. Well, I know you can because you're RT therapists, but there is this sense that when I talk even to my interns or folks that I'm working with, and my interns observe sessions. And one of my guys, after observing a family session, he goes, I know exactly what I don't want to do. But to be able to have that conversation I've told them numerous times, is one, you better not be showing up 2 minutes before your session starts. Like there's no, outside of Austin traffic, which is a thing. There's no reason why you should be just walking in the door just before your client does.
Yeah.
Or
after your client.
Exactly. Even worse. Likely we're going to have different conversation if that's happening. Right. But there is that sense of like, I think it's not taken for granted what we do. I don't think this is unique to our profession.
Yeah.
But truly being able to show up and to know that we are doing transformational work, restorative work in the lives of people. And though I think RT is an amazing framework for helping us through that process, I think we can still, even RT world, get very comfortable with, all right, we did our pain and peace cycle, we did our 4 steps. So what's next and how do we put that back in? But really being able, because I'm thinking about yesterday, I should be exhausted. A lot of stuff happened yesterday, but it's on the forefront.
There's more?
I remember a client being in yesterday and I couldn't remember her truth words. And I realized that I didn't go back and look at her, my notes on her pain and peace cycle prior to the session. And we're sitting here trying to do some things and I could not remember her truth words. So I had to go over to my computer and pull it up. And I don't think it bothered her at all. But it just threw off this signal for me of like, wow, was I really prepared stepping into this session that I wasn't able to recall? And obviously because I hadn't looked at her notes, but being prepared is so important in that process and being ready for our clients, because I think we definitely are doing that transformational work. So,
absolutely, yeah. You need to get a cheat sheet like I have, Michael. I got a cheat sheet for all my clients. I have like on every single one of my clients, I have their genogram, so I know all the characters in the story. And I have I have like little secret stories that they've told me along the way that I can always reference back to. Mm-hmm. And then on the very bottom of my cheat sheet, or on the very top, I have their goals listed. And then on the very bottom, I have their pain and peace cycles all written out. So I can, I'm telling you, man, cheat sheets are the jam. That's how I got through school. I mean, no, I didn't.
You just told us you cheated through school.
Oh, no. I actually did not use cheat sheets.
Lance has read all of the RT Cliff Notes. That's why he's so good at this. It's just a reminder there's a lot of areas of growth for me as a therapist. I got it. And that's why I like talking to you too and to anyone else. Yeah. It's like there's areas I got to continue to grow as a therapist, and I will have to continue to grow, hopefully. And, I hope that someone who sees me today, that I'll be much better if they were to see me 10 years from now. I hope I'm a better therapist, but
totally.
Yeah. It's exhausting. I was thinking just about, your day as a therapist. You had a busy day yesterday, and, trying to figure out a good rhythm for you as a therapist so you can sustain the work that you love to do is challenging. And I'm sure it just comes in different seasons.
It does. There's just a lot happening, but I think it's, yesterday I could think through, it was a busy day. This is the beauty of the work we get to do as RT therapists, is being able to do maybe real time our own work, is literally having to go through my own 4 steps. I get an email from a client that doesn't like that didn't say it directly, but doesn't like that I'm changing my rates. Said, the direction you're going, we're not headed, basically is what was said, which is fine, right? But you get that in your head, and then you still are supposed to step into a session with someone. And the beauty of the work we get to do is being able to realize that, hey, that client's experience doesn't define me or my abilities or any of those things, but we're just as human. That stuff can be with us, right? You go and you step in, you're like, wow, feel like I'm showing up for these people, doing those different things. And, then you feel like you're getting a foot in the face about, having to take care of your family. And I think that that's a conversation sometimes that folks don't let us have as therapists, is that, we are in a helping field. And I think there is this expectation that we're just supposed to give of our time, or, we're supposed to always have discounts, but we have families to go home and feed, and folks to take care of. We also have to emotionally show up for our families. So we have a full day of seeing clients and helping people, which I will not complain about. I love doing it. But also remembering, hey, we also have to walk through this process too. And stuff that outside of being in a session with a client, you still have to navigate life, and the stuff that comes at you in life. And so I think it's, to me, at the end of the day, RT has been a huge help, not only in my marriage, but just personally, to be able to know, hey, I have to sometimes walk through my 4 steps before a session, 2 or 3 times during a session, a few times after a session. But it's a tool that not only I think helps our clients, but it has been great help in my own life when life is hitting you and you still have to show up for clients.
Michael, what's the truth that's kind of been that core anchor for you of recent, like when you're in your pain cycle?
It's funny you asked that. I've been saying this a lot lately. More than capable, and healed shepherd. So healed shepherd is the name, that kind of the new name, I guess, I got when my wife and I did the intensive 14 years ago.
That's right. I remember you sharing that.
Yeah. So that name, my wife probably texts it to me very frequently, but more than capable, because I think my pain is inadequate, and feeling inadequate. And so to have to come back and more than capable of dealing with a spreadsheet, more than capable of speaking to an audience of a couple hundred people, or more than, like, all of those things, is that I can disqualify myself very quickly. Rhett, you mentioned as we were coming on, I've got a lot happening, and my default is performance, right?
Man, do you have my cheat sheet in front of you, Michael?
I think so.
Right, you're more than capable too.
He's got my pain and peace cycle right in front of him. Yeah, performance. So then, and that performance gets praised by people too. Not only us, but others like, oh, look at how good Michael's doing. Look at all the stuff he's doing. Oh, good.
Mm-hmm. That's how we started the session.
I think about Terry's words, which his phrase that a performance-based identity is no identity at all.
Right.
I'm like, no, that's not true. Come on, what do you mean?
Let me show you how that's really true.
I'm just like, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's heavy, So leaning into that, I'm more than capable. Or would you say shepherd?
Healed shepherd.
Healed shepherd.
You are a healed shepherd. I'm thankful. I am thankful for God's healing in your life, bro.
Yes.
And that, even the HEARTWORK's like stuff, man. You are a treasured voice in the RT community, my friend.
Thank you.
And I am so thankful that, like, from the first time I got to hear you, I was like, dang, this guy is amazing. So I really appreciate you, and I'm so looking forward to our years to come of being able to do good work together, man.
Yeah, likewise.
Plus, all us Texans are going to be taking over California here pretty soon in the RT world. So,
cool.
Watch out, Lance.
Yeehaw! Go get him.
Hey, I know we got to go, but I was going to say, here's something that I'm just going to plug this, and we won't do it this year because the year is coming down to an end. But mostly therapists probably listen to us. We should do some episodes together and some other people. We should talk about practice, like just the business of practice, because it is it's a question we all get. I get it all the time. You get it all the time, and there's tons I've learned and tons I'm still learning. And I sent Lance an article even this week about Brene Brown talking about her own pivot in terms of therapy and how she moved from this world to that world and how she thinks about therapy and just different stuff going on in the world of therapy. And, I want to continue to try to do good work in this place, but we have to think about like what that looks like. And so anyways, put that out there. People listening. Yeah, we should do that. We should.
I think it's a great idea.
Let's get on, talk about that, and bring some other people on and talk through that, just the nuts and bolts.
Yeah. And one last thing I forgot to share is I know there's with Stephanie and I, we have a level 2 trainings coming up, and I think you have a level 1, or did you just
January? It's in January.
Yeah, that counts. That's
close too. Wow.
It is.
Yeah. That's like 2 months away, bro. Michael Cox is doing a level 1 training. Do you want to tell us about it?
Yeah, level 1 training, January. Now I don't have the exact days, 23rd and 24th, I believe. It's in January. Level 1 in person, Austin, technically Pflugerville. We have it at my church here. So it's a Friday and a Saturday level 1 training coming up.
Yeah, I had one of my therapists fly all the way out to hear Michael Cox, and she was just like astounded by how amazing he is from California. So,
well, you got an associate of mine in level 2 right now.
Oh, cool. Nice.
Yeah. He's in Houston, and I think he said he still needs to schedule like a one-on-one with you and Terry. We just had supervision last week.
Nice.
But he's loving it. He's loving it.
That's great. Yeah. And we have level 2 coming up. I know Stephanie has 2 slots left, and I have 1 slot left for level 2. Stephanie's is coming up really soon. So check out the website. I don't have the exact dates, but I know it'll be in the notes. Possibly, because Rhett is the man.
Yeah, we'll put the show notes in. We'll put all the links to Michael's podcast and Instagram stuff, and we're excited to hear about this book. And we'll put dates down if they're in there. We'll put links at least to where you can do level 1, level 2 training. So awesome. All right, well, you guys go out and do good work today.
Likewise. Thanks, fellas. See y'all.
Thanks, Michael.
Just over a week.
See you soon.